It's like the places
Yes.
where it's cool to express joy is like if your sports team wins the championship or you're at a wedding. It's like, and as a boy, we policed each other, and as a young man too, really heavily, right? If we saw someone kind of breaking the rules a little bit. And so that social reinforcement on top of whatever is going on us internally is so powerful. And there's such a
Yeah.
cost to it.
Yeah. What do you think is the cost? Or
Ooh.
what is the cost?
Yeah.
I don't know. He's a
Yeah, yeah, let me take a second. I think the cost is a lot of it, and I think this is important to center, is born on people who don't get that message, like people who are raised as girls or people who identify and express other genders, right? They're kind of trailing behind doing all the emotional labor for men who aren't feeling their emotions in a lot of cases, or being present with their own emotions.
What is good, y'all? It is your boy Jonathan Dumas, and this is Highly Visible and a Little Misunderstood, the show where we talk to the people we see every day because we don't know what we miss until we miss them. And we are back, y'all. Last week we took a little bit of a break. We just need to recoup, a little bit. Reggie got stuff going on. I got stuff going on. But last week we dropped, if you caught it or didn't catch it, we dropped a mini-sode featuring some friends from the pod, Melanie Del Carpio and Kanisha Kun. There was supposed to be one more in there. There was a technical glitch. I'm so sorry, Amber. So sorry. But there were some highlights from some episodes that I recorded but didn't unfortunately make the full season. We might drop them as some bonus episodes if you subscribe to our newsletter, wink wink, or we might drop them a little bit later after, in the between time for seasons. But in that mini-sode, both Kanisha and Melanie unpacked what it's actually like to show up for yourself and others with presence, with purpose, and radical care. Really quick listen, but really good stuff inside that quick hitter that we dropped for y'all. So cue that up next. But for this week, I got a chance to sit down with my friend, Somatic coach, facilitator, and woodland creature, Abe Medoff, to unpack how breath, presence, and emotional range can really be the scaffolding and framework when we're talking about experiencing real joy and resilience and connection. We had a great conversation about what somatic means and what somatic practices are, and we kind of unpack some stuff about our own past as we try and return to ourselves. It's really, really good for those who are curious about somatic practices and breath work and all that stuff, and just being really present with self and with others. So if you are stuck in your head and just want to be super cerebral and kind of want to work your way out of that, or if you're somebody who was like me, tried to numb themselves away from emotions, or not really knowing how to speak to your emotions, or not really know how to connect to your emotions, this is a really good episode and conversation to give you vocabulary and hopefully tools and skills to kind of start that process for yourself. I really enjoyed this conversation. It was really, really fun. Just think of this as a practical invitation, y'all. Really, really good stuff. Before we dive into that conversation with my guy, Abe, do me a quick favor. If you are watching on YouTube, this is an invitation for you to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and drop a comment. Maybe on your own experience with your emotions. Maybe you never heard of the term somatic before and you have a curiosity around it. We drop all that stuff. So whatever resonates with you, go ahead and share in a comment below. And if you're tuning in on the audio side, leave us a quick 5-star rating if you feel so inclined, or leave us a review. It really helps folks discover the show. That is it from me, y'all. Let's get to this conversation with my guy, Abe. So, Abe, thank you so much for coming on to the show, my friend. It has been far too long since we last connected, but I'm so glad that we're able to do that here now on the podcast. So thanks so much for coming through.
Yeah, I'm really grateful to be here, Jonathan. Thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about all the work that you do and its relation to joy as far as breathing, your somatic coaching practice. But I want folks to get a sense of who you are. And I love asking this question for folks to just share any and all things about themselves. So the floor is yours. What can you share with folks that are listening in about Abe?
Hmm. Yeah, I think I would start off with saying, I'm a little boy with a big heart, and I'm also an uncle to two nephews who are my greatest teachers and inspiration, and sometimes exhausting, but have really reshaped my life in a surprising way since they came along. And yeah, I'm a woodland creature, just like I say sometimes. I feel most alive like in the woods, and I'm a big tree nerd and bird nerd. So if you're outside with me for more than 5 minutes, you'll find that out pretty quick based on where my attention's going. Yeah, I would say vocationally, I'm a facilitator, I'm an organizer, and as you mentioned, I'm a somatic coach. That's the newest wrinkle. And yeah, I'm always excited to be learning and to helping other people learn. I think that really is what sparks me.
I love that. And I'm going to just be upfront with you right now, my friend. I
Hmm.
don't mess with birds that much because growing
Hmm.
up, we would go to this pool every summer, didn't matter. And there was a place that we always went to. I got pooped on every single time. And there's something about that supposed to being good luck, but like at a certain point, it feels deliberate. And I feel like birds were plotting on me. So I've had a thing against birds for most of my life. But I will say there is a show on Netflix that I freaking love. It's called The Residence. The Resident? The Residence? I think it's about the White House. It's like a murder mystery kind of situation. Yes, comedy drama. Yes, yes, yes. It's starring Uzo Aduba. But anyways, she's a bird watcher and she uses like all these bird analogies and everything like that. And it actually kind of got me interested because there was some really cool bird facts in there. So just a little, just had to do that emotional dump on you. Just traumatic. I was triggered. I was triggered.
Receive it for you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right, so let's get into it. I think I was really interested to talk to you about this, and you had actually shared this with me around the connection between breath work, grounding, connecting to body, and joy. And so, like, that's actually going to be kind of like the context of our conversation. So, the first question that I would have for you is how do you define joy? And not just as like a feeling, but as a sensation in the body?
Yeah, I love that question. And I think that is where a lot of us get tripped up, right? Is because we try to think our way to joy. And like joy
Mm,
is an emotion, joy is an experience, and really not a thought. We can have a joyful thought, but really, when joy is something that lights us up and it can look different in all of our bodies and like all of our experience. And for me, when I'm really feeling joy, yeah, I can feel more breath in my lungs. I can feel kind of my shoulders relax, my face light up, like all those
mm,
things. Like it's like it's almost both a release and an expansion. And there's
mm.
like room for more. There's more aliveness. There's more of being in contact and connection with myself and others.
I like that. And I think you're so right about sometimes there's that disconnect between really like feeling joy and like experiencing it physically. And then we have like this thought or thinking about what it's supposed to feel like. I
Hmm.
think that I'm supposed to be experiencing this like in my body or whatever. Or there might not even be a connection to my body. I think back to like even some of my own times where like I could, I don't think I could explicitly name when I was feeling joy, but I knew I was joyful. Like something in me knew it when I was experiencing it. Can you share a moment when you felt joy in your body in a way that surprised you?
Ooh, in a way that surprised me. Yeah, I think to go back to it might be a touchy subject for you, but to go back to
Okay.
birds a little bit.
Well, I was
Um,
gonna mention I know when I felt a little disdain in my body for sure.
yeah, I was um I was kind of walking in the woods yesterday, and I was way up in my thoughts, like planning the next thing, not the present at all, and I almost stepped on. I came up real close to a pileated woodpecker, which is one of the big woody woodpecker looking guys, look like a total dinosaur that flushed
Mm,
away and flew into the tree. And it totally brought me into that moment, right? Rather than being off into planning or next thing or where it was at, but I could really feel. like the beauty of that bird in that moment, and just being there in the woods on a nice
Mm.
day, and it's reconnected with all of that, which lights me up, which changed the thing. And so it was literally surprising because I almost stepped on this bird, but it was also
Yeah.
something that shook me out of where I was in my headspace, so to speak.
Yeah. Now, I do want to say this. I don't wish any ill will or harm to birds. So I'm glad you didn't step on the bird. But I love how in that you kind of like it was almost like a reminder. Like that moment where you're, oh shoot, I almost did harm to these things that I like value or look at or see beauty in. And then it kind of like also like, wow, this bird is like gorgeous. Oh dang, I'm in nature. It was almost like that grounding point for you to like reconnect with self again. Did you? I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Is that kind of like what you're experiencing, or
Yeah,
tell me more about
I would
that?
say that's absolutely true. And I think I know it's like a theme that you'll be talking about this season of like joy in the mundane. I'm so conditioned many times to like just be in our little bubble and myopic and like charging ahead with our day, and like, oh, that's just a squirrel, or that's just a pigeon, or we don't even see a lot of what's going on around us. And when we, for me, I'll use I statements here, like when I can stop and notice and really appreciate like the beauty that's present in life, because so much of the world right now, to be honest, is really not beautiful. And there's
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
that drags us down, but being able to appreciate the small things that are present all around us that aren't really that small, if you think about it in a broader sense, can really resource us. And I think that's what I come back to a lot, is like joy is a resource, that keeps us going.
mm. That is like the like really the heart of something that I've been not only experiencing for myself, uh, but I think that's actually an aspect of like even my culture, or more specifically my family, that's been passed down that I didn't realize was like a deep value that we had. As like that joy, regardless of season, life, circumstances, is the thing that sustains us, is going to keep us going, going to keep us connected, not only with self, but the ones that are around us. And I think that like you naming that, I that's why I see joy as like this, yeah, like this force that this sustaining force that could keep us going. And I think even in the midst of all of the things that feel impossibly bleak, that like if we have this, if we can reconnect to joy, then there is still hope. Like there is still hope in and of itself because we're here, but that even if it's this bleak, we could still connect to joy. And in that, we can actually, it broadens our vision. It reinvigorates us to see something differently and also
Mhm.
fight for something differently, which yeah, I just love that you named that. Yeah, that you named that so specifically. Before we get too deep in this, I want to actually back up just a tad because I didn't give you a space. And maybe if you did, I'm so sorry if I missed it. But for
Oh,
folks who don't understand somatics or like
mm,
somatic, like, can you break down what that is for folks? Because we're actually going to be talking about this a good amount. So
yeah.
I don't want folks to get lost in what we're talking about before we get too deeper.
Yeah, I love that invitation. Thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, it's a new term for a lot of us, and it was new for me when I encountered it a few years ago. And soma is the Greek word for the body in its wholeness, right? And so what somatics holds is that, like, to be a complete person, we want to be connected to mind, body, and spirit. And a society in a world where there's like a lot of mind supremacy going on, right? It's like, I think, therefore I am, like Rene
Mm-hmm.
Descartes. And so we get so focused on our train of thoughts, then we start to become, the image of ourselves is kind of like a brain walking, or like being carried through the world, and the body is an inconvenience,
Mm.
or just that's there, and we can live our lives from the neck up. And so what somatics offers is a return home to a sort of embodiment, which is something that is part of all of our inheritance as humans. It's like really part of who we are. And it's something that a lot of us have lost, particularly places like the United States and Europe, where our dominant culture is so mind dominant. And there's a lot of different traditions and methodologies and rituals that a lot of cultures preserve and still practice today that they don't
Mm.
call somatic. But what somatics is, particularly in this context, is a lineage that has been developed. And there's a lot you can, there's things like somatic experiencing, somatic therapy, somatic speed dating. There's somatic everything about these days. And I like at first encountered and have gotten to study and work in the Strozzi somatics lineage, which was founded by Richard Strozzi Heckler. And what he did was like bring in a lot of that he learned from his spiritual teachers in terms of meditation and mindfulness, as well as training as a martial artist in Aikido, the
Mm.
Japanese martial art, which is a lot about embodiment and how do we move from center rather than
Mm.
moving from our heads. And so it's a whole methodology, it's a tangible set of practices, and that's also a way to awaken that awareness of like, what does our body know? What is the
Mm.
wisdom that's not downloaded by books into our head? And how do we get more in touch with that? And then how do we use that to become the person we want to be in our lives? So how do we use that to really enact change for ourselves and for others? And so that's the few minute version. I'll pause there because I know that's a lot.
No, that's I mean that's fantastic stuff, right? And so like if I would distill it down, it's really just like a reconnection, moving away from just like head and cerebral to moving and connecting with self and body more specifically. In this, I guess, in the simplest terms for somebody who like just give it to me straight, which is why honestly, I think in the last, oh my gosh, how long? Probably 10 years, actually. 10, 11 years. I forgot that I graduated college 10 plus years ago at this point. So, whatever. So, but that's where I started doing breath work because I
Mm,
had like this one, I didn't realize how much of an anxious person I was throughout college until like I had my first panic attack. And
mm,
then I had my heart, I didn't know what was going on in my heart. I had like a, what do you call it? Not an irregular heartbeat. What is that? Heart murmur. And I didn't know like this stuff. I got a physical, so a doctor just said it passively. He's like, you should get that checked out. He's like, you didn't know you had that. You get it checked out. And then I went this whole 6 month long process, whatever. But that's when I dove into like breath work and like slowing down and connecting to self. Like that's where it really started. It's just like breathing. And
mm,
now like it's my go-to. It like honestly it's my go-to. I've been significantly more relaxed in that, but I did not know that what that was, what that practice was like somatic breathing. Like I had no idea that's what that was. And so I think honestly, I wouldn't go so far as it saved my life, but I definitely know it changed my life in connecting me with myself again, which I was really averse to doing for a really, really long time. And that goes to your point around how folks live their daily lives now. Yeah. Question: why do you think that that is?
mm. Well, it's because it's really smart. Why do we disconnect from body? If we want to feel a lot, a lot of times life is really overwhelming. And a lot of times in a very young age, we get messages like our feelings don't matter, or something about us doesn't matter, or we don't matter as humans, right? And that message depends a lot on our social context, right? And our identities and our trauma histories. And so to adapt and survive in the world, one of the ways that we do that is we go up into our heads, right?
Mm,
So if I can be in that present moment in all of what I'm doing, it's easier to contain. And we all get varying messages about what's important to us. Like I was a kid who was not naturally athletically gifted, but I was naturally intelligent or I had some smarts about me. And so
mm,
that was what we rewarded. And that's how I won in the world. That's how I got
mm,
ahead, was doing well academically, being the smart person in the room. And so I was continually incentivized to go further up and away and view feelings and emotions, things like that, as an inconvenience.
mm,
And it worked well for me up until a point. And I reached, it was like, is this all there is? And that question. And when I started reconnecting to all that, to use your term of, oh, yeah, there's a bigger person here than just a brain and someone who knows a lot of things, it really shifted things for me in my life about like what's meaning, what's purpose.
mm. I like that. I think for me, I, and you said something that triggered this. For me, I think I was overwhelmed by the complexity of emotion. Like when
Mm,
moment I paused to feel the different ranges of what was going on, or it was just so overwhelming. My brain, like literally, I got it short circuited. I couldn't even like, am I
mm,
upset? Am I angry? Am I mad? Am I happy? Like what's going on? And it was complex for that time because I don't think I had ever sat with it before. And that goes to that cerebral, being so cerebral, thinking there is more. I even think for men too, and speaking for me, a black man, as like the range of emotions was just so small. Like you couldn't have many. And so when I actually attuned to my body and gave more attention and presence to myself, it was really interesting to one name, acknowledge that I was scared or fearful or nervous or anxious, and then like sit with that emotion.
mm.
It's just so not just uncomfortable, but it was like just the range of it was just so complex. Yeah, and to your point, I feel like that's what we're taught, but also I feel like folks just get overwhelmed by that. And I just yeah, it's just wild the amounts that our bodies can hold and know and remember, and we don't really acknowledge it until we like pause, which we don't give
Yeah,
ourselves enough time to do often.
absolutely. And I think we're like the dominant message or what we're taught is that emotions are something we have to figure out ourselves. And if
Mm,
we, a lot of times at a young age, if we bring emotions to someone else and like help me process this or be with it, it's like, oh, you're being too much,
yeah.
um, which doesn't really make sense. So there's things that come up for us. We're holding something that's really big and huge, and we're expected to hold it all without having the capacity or the skills or the support around it. So yeah, it absolutely makes sense. Wow, this is overwhelming, right? I want out.
Hmm.
Let me check.
Yeah.
And yeah, the kind of patriarchal message that a lot of people who are raised as boys receive very early on is that like, yeah, you can be like the acceptable range of emotions is like rage and anger. You definitely don't want to show fear.
Yep.
You don't want to show sadness. And even to a point, it's like I was reflecting on this the other day. You don't want to show joy. It's like the
Yeah.
places
Yes.
where it's cool to express joy is like if your sports team wins the championship or you're at a wedding. It's like, and as a boy, we policed each other, and as a young man too, really heavily, right? If we saw someone kind of breaking the rules a little bit. And so that social reinforcement on top of whatever is going on us internally is so powerful. And there's such a
Yeah.
cost to it.
Yeah. What do you think is the cost, or what
Ooh,
is the cost?
yeah.
I know. He's a.
Yeah, it's big. I think, yeah, let me take a second. I think the
Yeah.
cost is a lot of it, and I think this is important to center, is born on people who don't get that message, like people who are raised as girls or people who identify and express other genders, right? They're kind
Hmm.
of behind, trailing behind doing all the emotional labor for
Mm.
men who aren't feeling their emotions in a lot of cases or being present with their own emotions.
I just
And
heard the finger snaps of like so many women right now. But it's
yes,
absolutely true. 100%. 100%. Yeah. I'm
yeah,
hella guilty of that. Yeah.
yeah. And it's like, it's a huge part of yourself. It's a huge part of your experience that you're shutting down to, right? And it's such a
Mm.
narrowing to only be in your thoughts or to be disconnected from emotions. Like I was at a point where I had like convinced myself pretty much that I didn't experience emotions. Like, oh, this is not something I do
Yeah.
because it was safer for me. It was really what was acceptable. And yeah, it's such a tremendous cost for people who are raised that way. It's like you lose a huge piece of yourself and your humanity and like your
Mm.
connection to the world. And I often have like coaching clients or other people say, I do want to feel more joy. And it's like, yeah, great. And what we have to work on is our emotional range. Like we have to open up the whole menu, right? We do have to
Mm.
feel not just the joy, but the frustration, the despair, the fear, all of those things. We need to open ourselves and reconnect to those in order to have the space, the capacity to also hold joy. which is something that all of us kind of can agree on. Oh yeah, we would like more joy in our lives.
It's funny that you say that because I think when I first started out on this journey, as I mentioned, like 10ish years ago, a lot of the emotions actually that came up first were not happiness or joy or like all those like positive things that we see that we view positively. A lot of the stuff that was first was like I was really angry, and it was one of the very I didn't allow myself to be angry very often. When I was angry, it was usually like it came out almost like a kettle. Like I use the metaphor of kettle, of like it came out over the top. So it usually came out, randomly when somebody did something to me, and I viewed myself as like somebody who could have one somebody who did not deserve it. And it was more of like, well, I'm trying to defend. I'm trying to like put myself in like a safe space. Like I was the bully in those instances, right? I took those opportunities of like when somebody disrespected me or like something like that, and then somebody didn't listen to me or do what I said to do in those moments. That's when I exploded, or I exploded on the basketball court, or I exploded. I remember like there was all these random times that I would just explode, and so like those were when I like attuned myself to, gave myself more space to connect with what was going on. Those were some of the emotions that came up first. And I was so angry, frustrated, annoyed, all these things that I didn't know actually even where to put it at that point. I was just, fuck, like that's as best as I could do, And then I started to experience like those other things, like, damn, I'm sad right now, or I'm happy, or more recently, in like the last 2 to 3 years, where I can like actually say, I'm like, I got joy, like I am joyful right now. So it's so interesting that you say that we have to like open up the whole menu. Well, I would say, can you tell more about that? Like, what is and if you can, I don't know if it's the same for everybody, but actually, I'm not going to ask that question. I have a more specific question to this. How do you coach people to go and grow in their emotional range? Like, how do you do that?
Can I ask you a question first? Real
Yes,
coach.
please do. Yeah.
You
Coach gonna coach.
Yeah, how did you get through the initial stages of what kept you going in the breath work if you were just bringing up anger and other kind of less wanted emotions? Like how did you move through to the other parts?
I think in the beginning I didn't know how to do it. Um, and shout out to my partner because she just like had a ton of patience with me.
Mhm.
But like honestly, like I would just like go for a walk or go work out or like do something else to just like I'm very physical, so I have to like do something to get it out. And so that's what I found. Like when I was actually allowed myself to be angry, I just like let it out in like a
Mm.
physical way. And if I needed to like hit something, because that's like sometimes that's what I need to do. I just grab a pillow and just like bah, 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 real quick, and
Yeah.
then all right, are you good? Are you like kind of just had my tantrum or whatever, and then I think as I moved along, like letting those fits of anger out, still I would say in not as fully processed ways, like on the basketball court, but sometimes go a little too much. Or
Mhm.
too angry, or talk to myself in a disrespectful way. Like the way I talked to myself and treated myself for a while is like not great. But
Mhm.
then I started like actually talking through like the emotions, and that was like kind of my progression. Is like, okay, that happened. I feel really pissed off about that. I'm going to be pissed. Like I'm fucking angry now. And I was proud of myself because I was playing this video game the other day, or yesterday actually, and I didn't break my controller, which high school Jonathan
Eh,
would have high school Jonathan would have broke his controller.
yeah,
I
fellow
just set it
gamer.
down and walked around and then came back to my chair, and yeah, that was
Yeah,
it.
that's great. Yeah, so to answer your questions, like how do we work with people who are like, I'm interested in this journey, but how do I move along? I think what you talked about, so many of us are trained to contain things really quickly, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
something starts to arise in us. Oh, here's that anger, and we shut it down. So we put it
Mm.
back in the kettle. And what we try to do is like, as a coach, is like, how can I be ground to help people feel what it's like to express something and let it run its course? Like, how many times do we see someone start to cry And then they really lock down their eyes and blink back the tears and like really get hard here. And it's like,
Mm.
what would it feel like if you just cried, right? If you let
Yeah.
that out. Or to your point, if you went for that run, you hit that pillow, you let that move through you and complete, and really getting the sense of that. And it's like, wow, I can do that and be okay. There are places where I can, and building that sense of safety and
Mm.
the skill around that. And then it's like, oh yeah. And to your point, it's like, oh, as I go through this, I get become more and more skilled. So I don't necessarily have to go take it out on the pavement on that run, but I can talk myself through it. I can be present with that and give that anger some space. And so building our capacity and our skill to do that through practice is a big way. But yeah, developing, getting to know ourselves better and to really allowing ourselves the journey, right, around an emotion rather than cutting it off quickly.
How will that connect to like our ability to feel joy and hold joy going to the, I don't know
Yeah,
if that'd be the
this
opposite side of the spectrum, but yeah.
no, the same muscles work the same way, right? And
Mm.
it's like, oh, if I'm head down in the rat race and something really sparks joy in me, right? I hear my nephew laugh. If I'm like, oh, don't have time for that right now, I'm gonna keep moving,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This can I really allow myself to feel joy and to bask in that and to do what is joyful, to move my body in a joyful way, to express that emotion, however it's coming through me, rather than cinching down on the expression and to like hide
Mm.
away. Because you would think like intuitively, oh yeah, we all do can express joy and do it. But just as we talked about, there's like so many things that get in the way that are pretty similar and look like the move is pretty similar to dealing with anger. It's the same
Mm.
impulse, it's the same body, it's the same aliveness that's moving, the same energy. It's just showing up in a different way.
I like that. I like that. As you were sharing that, I was reminded of like particular moments where you had mentioned earlier, like we police, like as young boys and even young men police each other as far as like feeling our feelings. And I just thought of like the shame that gets connected to that. And so it's like really unlearning that and not, how would I, and help me, Abe, if you understand what I'm saying. It's honestly like really unlearning those kind of like learned and socialized ways of that shame overpowering the ways in which we choose to feel or in the ways that like we react and be when we want to feel something, when we want to cry, when we want to laugh, when we want to giggle, kiki, frolic, whatever we want to do. You know what I mean? Like I think it's like I think there's a lot of difficulty in that. But I love how you're saying it's just like both the sides of those. And I don't like using binary language, but the full spectrum of emotion, like it is to feel it. It's emotion that we can grow with in capacity. I like that. Mm.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that piece of it up too, because it's like we can get really that shame spiral is so easy. It's like, oh, I can't
Mm-hmm.
believe I'm like that. Can I do that? And we can get hard on ourselves. And a big part of what like Richard Strozzi Heckler says all the time is like the body learns on yes. And so
Okay.
when we're in recovery reconnection, we really want to, it's like, what's the way that we can be with that part in a way that's not like, I want to get rid of that shame or I'm so mad at myself that I'm like this, right? We can really
Mm-hmm.
dignify the pieces of us that it's like, wow, that shape of me that I learned to stifle my emotions so that I could be in a group of boys and feel safe. Like that was a really smart move. Like that got me
Mm-hmm.
through school, that got me through adolescence, some pretty challenging times growing up. And it's like, thank you, that part of me. Really great job. And it's like, now you can chill out. It's like, here I
Yeah.
am on the other side of all that, a much more resourced person, a person who has more skills and capacity and can choose something different about how I want
Mm.
to express emotions.
That's really, really true. I love that. And also just like humanizing that side of yourself without vilifying that
Mm-hmm,
side. Because I think
mm-hmm,
that's something that I learned within the last couple of years too is like I want to give space for that because honestly that side actually was doing the work of doing the work with the skills and tools that it had and using
Yeah.
those for years and years and years. And what I have found for myself is like actually giving space and room for that voice to like share a little bit more instead of shutting it down. I've uncovered a lot, right? When I'm like saying that I'm a failure or I'm like what I'm doing is useless, I'm a little offended, but I also hold space for that. It's like, why use that word, Jonathan? Why are
Yeah.
you calling yourself a failure? Why are you saying that what you're doing is useless?
Hmm.
And then it's actually, well, that's not actually the right word. It feels more empty. It feels like I'm just spinning my wheels. I'm just tired. It's like, oh, well, you can use different words, different language. How can we, it's just a very different act. And I have found that I'm not like fighting within myself, but I
Hmm.
am working with myself, and like there's even more growth that happens there. I know that that's another level of like emotional like understanding and intelligence and awareness for folks, but I think that's you had mentioned that, and that's a really good practice that I started. I don't do it every single time, but it's one of those things where when I give myself space and presence, it's just a different way of navigating life.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And when you can really ally with yourself, and then you can
Mm,
really invite
like that
others to
phrasing.
ally with you, right? And can get
Yeah.
support. And it's not from a place of like venting or dumping or unloading, but it's like, here's a need I have right now, or like, here's what's showing up for me. How can you be with me in this experience? I think really powerfully brings me to grief, right? That's been one that we've lost so much of our collective like grieving rituals and practices, all of us, particularly in the United States. And we view it's like grief is like you get your bereavement leave and then you come back and you're expected to be all okay. And
Yeah.
what has shifted for me, it's like sharing your grief with another person is a really generous act. It's a really powerful thing.
All right, y'all. So there actually is research on this, and I'm not gonna bore you with all the details, like specifics. I'll give you the high level context of it. So when we are helping someone celebrate or experience joy, or with somebody who's experiencing happiness, and we like celebrate with them, it actually lights up a part of our brain, which like is the essentially the rewards part of our brain, the reward circuits. You get a hit of dopamine, and even oxytocin boost that cements those social bonds. Hence why when we are celebrating with somebody, we feel like connected with them. Think of like a sporting event, or your favorite team, or your school graduation. Those things, we feel close to one another. And on the flip side of that, when someone is experiencing grief and we sit with them in that, your brain actually engages the same pathways that process loss. So essentially, it's tapping into that memory and those bonding events. So you are almost like tapping into those same emotions and feelings right then and there when you yourself experience loss. And what happens in your brain is it starts to ramp up the stress hormones like cortisol. It even rewires how you recall that person you've lost. So, in short, your mind and body are hardwired to feel alongside each other, whether in joy or sorrow. And that neural dance is what makes empathy both a powerful and, to be honest, exhausting thing sometimes. Shout out to my empaths. I feel you. For your viewing pleasure and reading pleasure, if you're into that, I dropped a couple links. One of them is a TED Talk by that's on grief and what happens in our brain, and the other one research paper is on joy, what happens to our brain there. Really good stuff, fun stuff. Dive into that. There's a lot of research on this that I didn't want to share with you. I just want to give you the highlights. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap up this conversation with Abe.
To be with like what's really sitting with me. And, grief is really the flip side of joy. It's like you are grieving something because you loved it and you lost it, or
Mm,
grieving someone because you loved them and you lost them. And again, it's like that. Can we deepen the pool for all of it and do it together and hold it as a collective and to support each other in feeling that rather than stigmatizing people or putting them off in a corner because we don't want whatever's happening for them to remind us of our own stuff, right?
mm. I don't want to say that it would be impossible because I don't personally I don't believe in the impossible. Well, that's not true. I believe that there's something. But anyways, I would hope, like I was telling Lindsay the other day that I'm really thankful for the community that I have now because I think I there's been times where I know if I were to say this good thing happened to me or I have an interview here for this role at this money and personally I'm like in shock and awe.
Mm,
But I have friends in my life that like, oh yeah, like that makes total sense. Like they believe in me so much that like
mm,
more so than myself, and that actually instills a level of confidence in me. But I at the same time know that there was a time in my life where if there's people that I don't keep close to me, that if I were to say this or if I were to do this, like they would just hate on me for no reason but what they feel or what they're projecting onto me, which can take away or would reinforce my insecurity about this or inadequacy about this or and I'm using this job or
yeah.
interview or whatever as an example because it's most recent. But I think it connects to what you're saying. Is like if you have it really is if you could walk through that. Let me say that again because that was gibberish real quick. It really comes down to for me with like if you have those that can connect with you and
Mm,
share in both like those good stuff and also the very tough stuff. And these are those same people that congratulated me and supported me in like the good times are those same people that like are with me in the grieving and the hard and do it in a way that not centers themselves but focuses on the other person, focuses on how I'm going to care for you and support you, and it's a reciprocal relationship in that way or mutual beneficial whatever. I think that there is another side to that and a growth for a growth for both the person that is giving that support and the person that's receiving that, knowing that one, the person receiving it is like, I'm safe enough to be here and feel this range of emotion, the complexity of it, the difficulty of it, the greatness of it. And then on the other side of that, for those who are giving that support, it's like, I am here for my friend. Like I know there has to be some study somewhere around of like the what that does in our brain of like being there for somebody in the joy and also being there for somebody in the grief. Yeah, hopefully that connects. Well, I know it does. I'm gonna be confident in what I said, but that's kind of like what came up for me when you shared
yeah.
that.
And I think the key point here for me that's is like we have to be available for that connection, right?
Mm,
To be really present. Can we be present in more than just our mind and our thoughts? Like when someone's really up in their head and they're sharing something with us, it's like it's a much different way, harder to trust them and to really connect with them on another level and to really be there in a way that's going to support them. And
mm,
so, like, so much of my work is like, yeah, how can I open up a little bit more and be more permeable? And for others, they're like so blown apart where they're constantly taking care of other people. They've lost any connection with themselves, right? And so for them, it's like, can I come back into myself? So there's something here to connect to, and I'm not just gonna dive into your stuff and leave me behind.
yeah, I'm curious. How do people do that? Like we
Mhm.
talked a lot about like for ourselves, and I'm gonna ask you in a little bit of like practices that folks can start doing on their own to kind of like start this place if they're new to this. But if we're the outside person looking in, right? How do we connect to that like physical aspect of that? Get out of our heads to be there for somebody in the grief or in the joy. Like how do we do that?
Yeah, I think this is where practice is so powerful. And really, we define practice as anything you do regularly with intention,
Mm,
right? So practice can look at a lot of different ways. So maybe you're going to that yoga class with really that intention of like, I'm going to feel more, I'm going to connect to this body and do that on a regular basis, bring that extra level of intent. Or breath work is another example. It's like, what am I breathing into? Why do this? Why take the time to really feel my lungs? What's the connection there? And then, yeah, within the methodology and I study and Strozzi somatics, there's a whole wide range of practices that we bring in with coaching clients. And there's a lot available if you want to like search up somatic centering is one of the biggest. as kind of a core practice, which is comes from a lot of it comes from Aikido. It's like how do we be with like this other part of ourselves, which we talk about center in terms of like our belly center, like the root chakra for other traditions of like that really that place of that gut feeling, right? That
Mm,
skillful in that knowing of like this feels right to me, or it's like oh that job I didn't really feel the vibe when I went and interviewed there. I'm not going to take it, right? There's that
mm,
intuition that's within us, and centering is a practice that allows us to connect to that and also to really feel ourselves in all of our dimensions. And so it's like, can I stand a little bit taller and feel my dignity that way, for example? But yeah, I would generally, there's like so much out there. Like you can go for a walk and be listening to a podcast the whole time and paying attention to that. Or you can be going for a walk and paying attention to your surroundings, how you're feeling, the
mm.
feeling of earth under your feet, hearing what's around you in terms of the wind in the trees, right? And it's a totally different experience.
Got you. Sweet. All right. We spent a good amount of time talking about how we know we're connected or know when we're in our bodies, and you just laid out some great ways to even practice that on an individual level so we can do it together. But
Mm-hmm.
what are some signals? Like if somebody is like, no, like no, I'm pretty present with self,
Mm-hmm.
or I don't know if I'm not present with self. What are some signals or signs that somebody may be disconnected
Mm-hmm.
from joy in their body, even if they think they're fine in their head, like I mentioned?
Yeah, that's an exploration. And I think it's like figuring out like when we are present and connected and when we're disconnected. And that can look different for all of us, but really trying to, and it's hard to like, if you haven't really been in your emotions and your feelings for X amount of years, it's like, oh, can I describe what the distinction feels like to you? That's a lot of what we do in coaching and in training work in the somatics world. It's like feeling what off center is like, so we can feel like what brings us back to center. I think feeling for that moment where you feel really grounded, whether that's, oh, I sat for meditation in the morning, or yeah, I went for that run, right? And I felt so alive and like connected. And then feeling for what's the opposite effect? Like, what's the disconnection? And it's like, oh, when I'm so frustrated at work and totally in my head and just spiraling in my thoughts, like I think all of us have been in that like anxiety spiral, or I'm sitting here rehearsing a conversation that's going to happen that I'm not there. When we get out into those moments, or I'm just stuck in my to-do list the whole day, right? I'm just thinking about what's next, what I got to do, which is a really smart way of being again, and it gets us
Yeah.
through a lot. It's like I think a lot of it comes down to just slowing down at
Mm.
the what is the pace? Am I frenetic, or can I take a moment to really feel and connect and be present with what is, whatever that is? So that's kind of a squishy answer, but
No,
that's what
no, I like it. I like it. And but I mean, we're coming close to like our end of our conversation. But I'm curious for those who have listened to this whole thing. Shout out them. But at the same time, are still like, I don't see the point of this, bro. Like, I really don't see the point of this. I'm fine. I'm navigating everything. We're good. I don't want to. I don't see the point of like connecting to body. Like, I don't even know what that means. It feels very woo woo. Even though we spent 45 minutes talking about it. But the what would be the conversation that you would have for somebody like that? Like, I'm picturing myself even 10 years ago. I'd be like, what the heck
yeah.
are you talking
I want to say like
about?
hello, yeah, hello to past Abe as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I it's ooh, you can live your life doing that. And I think for me, I come back to for a lot of us, it's like something has to break down, unfortunately. Like what really clued me into this path where I got today was like I was dealing with stress at work to the point where it was having like a physical impact on my body. And I was really feeling that and started meditating with an app. And I was like, wow, this stuff works. It really makes a difference. And that really changed my worldview. And so there's a point where we really do have to commit to ourselves. And it can't really convince you, can't force you, can't bring you over to this, nor would I want to, right? Consent is a huge piece of it. But I really do recommend just getting more curious. of like what would like be different for you? Like what would you have more of? Thinking back to your conversation now, like what would be different about like your community and your people around you if you were able to connect on a different level? Like Jonathan, you were talking about before, these people in my life who support me in my endeavors. I'm, out here trying to earn a living and do it in a way that feels fulfilling. It's people who have my back and are supporting me. It's like, what would it be like to have more of that? Really feel joy not as a fleeting thing or not like once every 10 years when your sports team wins the Super Bowl, but like really in an everyday. Is that worth
Mm,
it? Is that worth the exploration? Is that worth maybe being open to something new? That's what I would ask.
I like that. And there's also more that exists there too. I hear your sports team winning every 10 years, and I'm like, that's not, I mean, the grand scheme of things, these people don't know you. They never will know you. I love my Celtics, but at the same time, bro, like I'd much rather find joy and having going for a really good walk and feeling
Mm,
good in my body and breathing and not having issues breathing. And I'm so glad that I don't have panic attacks every other week or every few days. Like I'm very thankful that like, all that stuff. So anyways, personally, I feel like men in particular, like, and just to be completely transparent, like I had to seek out men. Like you came and we had a conversation. You wanted to be on the pod, which I'm so thankful for. But like when I put out the call and I've reached out, it's like mainly women who wanted to be on the show, or those are women presenting folks. And it's just like
mhm.
really, I know men feel joy too. And so like I think if I had framed it some different way, I know that men would have like hopped on trying to talk about it. And this is not like me shitting on dudes. Like that's not what this
Yeah.
is. It's like it's more of an invitation of like this is something that we can feel, that we're allowed to feel, that like we don't need to have shame or guilt or whatever thing that we've been socialized to believe around feeling
Mm.
a full range of emotions, because we are complex human beings and we are allowed to feel those complex human feelings. Yeah. So
Yeah.
appreciate you, Abe.
Amen. Appreciate
Yeah.
you, John.
Yeah. So cool. Well, you already listed out practices throughout this time, so I'm not going to ask you that question. We've done that. This was a really fun conversation. One question that I'm currently asking folks in one way or another is, what is currently bringing you joy?
Mm.
But for you, I'm going to change it a little bit. It's not in your mind, but in your body in this season of life. So what's currently bringing you joy in your body in this season
Ooh.
of life for you?
Yeah, I think connection, like not to be a brown nose, but yeah, being on a call with someone where we're able to connect on a deeper level and like
Yeah.
at a beautiful gathering at my friend's house for his birthday slash home housewarming. There were like 30 of us in their backyard, and it was like my friend led some yoga and his partner led this beautiful like sound bath and singing. And it was just like looking up at a beautiful willow oak tree and just like being in community midst of everything that's going on with like a whole wide range of different people who have a lot of different connection to how we were showing up and what we were doing in that moment. But the way that, yeah, community and to really feel like that deep sense of belonging and the way we can like relax into that, that's really joyful for me.
I love it. I love it. And then finally, if someone's listening and well, nope, I'm not gonna ask that question. We already talked about it. Awesome. Well, my friend, thank you so much for coming through. This was just a dope conversation. I feel calm. I'm ready to take on my day and everything like that. So I appreciate you. Where can folks tap in or get connected to you, whether it be to learn more about somatic coaching or your coaching practice? You'd mentioned that you are going to be going for the ACC pretty soon. Woo! And I can vouch, y'all. Abe is fantastic. We met through mutual like facilitation and training thing, and I saw him do his thing, and he's incredible at holding space and helping folks process and grow as leaders, as individuals. So yeah, sorry, just talking you up. Just
You never have to apologize for that, Jonathan. I thank you
yeah,
so much for the intro.
yeah,
Yeah, you can find me at abemedoff.com. That's ABEMEDOFF. I'm also active on LinkedIn. That's like one of the few corporate social media platforms you can find me on these days. I'm on there as Abe Medoff. Feel free to look me up. And yeah, I love to chat if you're curious, you want to learn more. I'm also hosting a little grand opening gathering on May 28th on Zoom. So that's also space if you just kind of want to drop in casually and learn more, maybe get to experience some of the practices that we were hinting and talking about for yourself. That's also going to be available and out there.
Amazing. All right. I'm sure to plug all that stuff in the show notes so folks can tap in with you. Abe, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, Jonathan. So great to be here.
Absolutely. So I had this thought the other day. Me and Linz have a vision board in our room. We did it I think 3 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, for our anniversary. And on my side of the vision board, it has take it slow with joy. And I just thought about how I have always been go, 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 go. And in recent years, the reminder for myself has been to slow down, to be present, to breathe, to chill, I don't always have to build. I don't always have to go. I don't always have to do. And if I'm not physically going, I'm mentally going. And as it's just funny that this is the conversation that happened this week, because this happened a few days ago. I wasn't even thinking about this episode that this was dropping this week. But what was interesting for me is damn, that really always has been a theme for me, ever since I was a little kid. And I remember actually another story. I was 8 or 9 years old. Y'all don't know this, but baseball is my first love. I love baseball growing up, and I played for a while. A little league, won a championship. Shout out Pirates, Chula Vista Pirates. And I remember my coach from Little League. He took me to my first ever baseball game, and I think it was the first or second one I went to at Petco Park, or Qualcomm Stadium, because that's what it was before. They had little kids running around the bases, and I remember doing that, and they said go, and I remember not taking it slow as if I was hitting a home run or something like that, but I ran as fast as I could around the bases, and they're telling me slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down. And I just remember no, I want to impress, I want to show off, I want to do this. And I just remember running around the bases and it being over just like that, and not really savoring that moment. I don't know, as I was editing and listening back to this conversation, that moment, that memory came to mind. And anytime I think back to that, I always think of damn, I really wish I would have slowed down. Because how often will you have an opportunity, especially as a little kid, to go on a major league field to just be there? And I don't look at that necessarily as regret. I just look at dang, relax, Jonathan. Take the moment. Take that time. Move slowly with joy. And that's just always been a recurring theme for me. So when I think about breath work, and I mentioned it on the pod 10ish years ago, I started doing this. It was started out of a health scare. Every time I do any kind of breath, it reminds me to be present with self. And I think how often I don't do that. I want to run, I want to go, I want to move. I'm that little kid, that little leaguer, running super fast around the bases and not really enjoying the moment, basking in the coolness of this, of shit, I'm in a big ass stadium. That not many people get to do that all the time, So I think that's what I want to do more, and lean into more, and continue to remind myself of take my time, move slowly with joy. It's gonna be all right. Breathe. Be present with self. Be present with self. Be present with self. It's just wild. Not on an individual kind of deal. It's more I can tend to others and connect with others and be with others, but also I can do that same thing with myself. in breathing practices and other somatic practices, but breathing practices, mindfulness, intentional space, like that's another way of doing that, and another way I can care for myself and tend to myself and slow myself down and be present to self, as I say the 5th time. Anyways, I want to invite y'all, if you want to do this with me, you can do it while you're driving, do it while you're walking, do it at your desk. I want to invite you to do a box breathing exercise with me. This is a very basic one, super simple, easy intro mindfulness practice, somatic practice that you can do, just being intentional about your breaths. So it's 4 seconds of inhale, hold 4 seconds, exhale 4 seconds, hold 4 seconds. That's it. Box breathing. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to do it together. Just one round. We don't got to do it all too intense. All right. So we're going to inhale through the nose. 1, 2, 3. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. That's it. I actually already felt more relaxed doing that at one round. Feel free to do that again if you need to. But I usually lead that up with exercises, all kinds of stuff. I do it with my coaching clients all the time, just to ground yourself, bring yourself to the moment, relax, get some air to your brain. You think better, you think clearer, and all that. So yeah, that's it, y'all. I don't want to ramble too much, so I'm gonna stop. But I want to invite y'all. In this conversation, we talk a lot about joy as an emotion, but we also mention joy is how does it feel? Physically feel. And a question that I asked, Abe was when's the last time you felt joy in your body? So I want to ask y'all, when was the last time you felt joy in your body? Not just your mind, not just you thinking about it. When was the last time you felt joy in your mind? Share with us what it felt like, or what it felt like. We would love to hear from you. You could tap in on the link below or email us, highlyvisiblepodcast@gmail.com. Send us a voice note, picture, different things like that. If you didn't catch the mini-sode, we also shared some of the things that folks have been sharing with us over the last few weeks. Really, really cool. So we'd love to hear from you. Logistical things, if I put on my little influencer hat on. If you are watching, please subscribe, and leave a comment. If you are listening, go ahead and leave us a 5-star rating or leave us a review. We really, really, really read those and really, really appreciate them. And it helps folks discover the show. But that is it. I'm done yapping, y'all. Until next time, peace.